Hey guys, welcome to my blog. We're going to check out some property that the city of Dallas has up for auction today to kind of walk around and determine whether it's valid or not. Probably not going to be able to get into it today, but we're just going to take a look at the outside of it and see what the property's validity of, whether or not it looks like it's been gutted in plumbing or electrical and whatnot, to see if its minimum bid meets the criteria we're looking for the kind of deals we do. So come on with us and we're going to take a look around the house. Hey guys, I'm going to take a look at this property. Now the things you look at when you're at a property is you don't really care about things like this, which are trash and stuff like that. Those things are minor of nature. You'll notice over here on the side of the house here they've got a little broken up concrete, some other trash and stuff. That stuff's not going to deter too much from what we're looking for. The things we are looking for are things like the condition of the outside of the house. What are we going to have to do to make this thing more sellable? Now, if you look at this, they've got the windows boarded up. The whole house is painted in gray, which is fine. But the condition of the outside is okay, so it's not like there's a lot of rotted wood or things like that. Things like this here, which I have no clue what this was, is just stuff that we can get thrown away, and it's not of concern. Now, one thing that is a concern, if you look over here next door, we've got another house that's boarded up. Having two houses boarded up next door to each other is obviously going to be a deterrent to the value of the house and the ability to resell it for good value. So it might be worthwhile for us to go and check that house also to see if we can pick it up at the same time and possibly have two deals instead of one in the same neighborhood. If you look at the side of this house, you'll notice that it's pretty square right here, but in the back corner of this thing, it starts to kind of dive in, which tells me there's some issues with foundation on the property. You'll also notice if you look up here at the eave of the roof, this part of the roof is really square, but this part of the roof is starting to drop off. So obviously there's some issues with the roof itself as well. Now we're going to have to kind of hunker down here for a minute and take a look, but if you kind of look up inside of here, you can see there's some damages, but it doesn't look like it's so severe. It looks like the main foundation of the roof is solid. It looks like they just had a problem with the eave that we probably need to repair, and the back is boarded up. I'm going to show you something. You see over here where you can see underneath the house, it looks like somebody pulled stuff away. It's not so bad. It looks like somebody's been underneath there, but we tend to look for things where it shows that on a house that's pier and beam, if it looks like there's an opening where somebody could crawl up underneath the house, you almost assume in every instance that they've pulled all the copper out of the house. So let's take a walk around the house and see if we can find any other openings around the house. All right, well, we looked around the house. We can't find any real openings that look like big enough for somebody to go underneath. So I'm going to assume for the moment that the copper hasn't been pulled out of the house from underneath. But there are a couple of things I want to show you. First of all, you see these little boogers up here? Those things are all over vacant properties. They're yellow jackets and they're no fun to deal with. So be careful when you're beating on a house or going around stuff. Look up around eaves, especially things on places where bees can hibernate at, when you're kind of poking around a house. We've gotten into them a lot of times. I want to point out something on this house. The whole house here on the outside is painted gray. The window frames, the doors, and if you look down here, even the metal trim around the bottom, okay? Now, that tells me that sometime after this property was abandoned, somebody came back and painted this thing so it wouldn't be an eyesore for the neighborhood. That also means they may have come in and put in this metal foil on the outside underneath the house after the house was abandoned, which means it doesn't mean because we can't find an opening underneath the house that the plumbing hasn't been gutted. Chances are it has been gutted and somebody came in and put this up afterwards. So we don't know that the house hasn't been gutted yet, and only inspection on the inside is going to tell us that. Two of the biggest things we want to look for in a house like this is, in addition to obviously the structural condition on the outside of the house, is you want to make sure that the plumbing hasn't been gutted and the electrical hasn't been gutted. Not that you won't buy the house if that's happened, but it certainly will determine more of the value of the house. Let's go take a look at the electrical for a second. Now normally we look for an electric meter and try to determine whether or not if the breakers have been pulled out, or if you look at the wires inside of a meter, if the wires have been pulled out, it gives you an outside indicator of whether or not somebody's gutted the house of electrical. This one's got even a bigger telltale sign. We looked all over the house. We couldn't find a meter or a breaker box, but we did find this. This is the wire, one of the wires that goes into the house. It's the only sign of anything electrical on the outside of the house, which tells me that the house has been very gutted. Not only gutted there, but they've taken down all the electrical stuff that attaches to the house. My opinion is this house probably has had electrical gutted on it. And before we bid on it to the city, we are going to need to do an inside inspection. We're not going to do that today because it's boarded up pretty well and it's wet right now. So we'll come back here and take another look at this house sometime probably tomorrow when it's a little drier. That's closed for today. Give you an idea of how we look at some of the outside of the houses. Next step is we're going to have to take a good analysis of the inside. See you next time.
Taxi!